Hey there friends, welcome back to the channel. I am doing something special today and I have invited a very close friend of mine, a friend and colleague I should say. RogueRanks is with me today. He runs a channel dedicated to to gaming rankings. So if you're interested in like RPG rankings, everything from Skyrim to Elden Ring and so on and so forth, do check him out. But today we are coming together in our love for Total War. So let's hear from Rogue a bit.
Thank you, Andy. I am excited to be here to talk about Total War. So just some history. My channel doesn't necessarily cover Total War, but I've been a lifetime fan of the series, starting all the way back in Shogun 1, so I'm a true veteran with thousands and thousands of hours across all the games. But I wouldn't call myself necessarily a power gamer or like fully optimizing. I just love the series, love the vibes, love the atmosphere. Yeah, so I'm super excited to be here. Thank you, Andy.
That's awesome. And yeah, like that's actually interesting because I, despite, having dedicated big parts of my life to Total War, have never truly dived deep into Shogun 1 and Medieval 1. So I'm excited to hear your takes on those. And to help us, yeah, it will. And to help us get going, we are not going by age this time, like in a linear fashion. We're actually using the Wheel of War. That's a catchy name. Good job.
Thank you.
And
I thought long and hard about that.
And we do have a few rules, or at least one rule, right?
We do?
In terms of how many games we want on the S ranking.
Oh, that's right. This is going to be tough. We're going to limit the S tier to 3 games only, which honestly, like my honest tier list is like everything's an A and S because the series is awesome. But this will make it interesting. Yeah, 3 and S only.
Absolutely will. And I have done these tier lists in the past, but obviously things change, you get older, you get wiser, and I think that with mods and with new experiences, I think this list can be interesting compared to the past ones too, especially since we're having a talk here as well, having some new impulses. And with that, are we ready to go?
Spin the wheel. So actually, are we going in order?
So the way this works is that I will spin the wheel. I'm the one with the mouse, but we will sort of initiate our talks one after the other here. So since you're the guest on the channel, you will have the first say.
Save the best for first. Let's go.
Here we go.
Oh man, give me a good one.
Oh my god, I'm getting.
I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh my god.
That was gonna be Britannia. 3 Kingdoms right off the bat.
3 Kingdoms. Damn. Okay. We're going to the Far East.
This might be a hot take for you. I know your feelings on this one. I actually had 3 Kingdoms in A tier. I think it's I think it's an incredible title. Honestly, I have some issues with it. Yeah. Overall, I think it's one of the stronger titles from like a vision perspective. I think they had a really strong vision of what they wanted to execute on. I think it realizes the time period extremely well. I think it has a gorgeous battle and campaign map. The battles are very fun. I like how colorful they are. I like the unit banners. One thing I don't like though so much is the hero units, while kind of necessary for what they're going for, the themes and stuff, they're just like too impactful to the battles in a way that almost your armies don't matter nearly as much. Although some units like cavalry especially are just like absolutely devastating in 3 Kingdoms. I love the diplomacy though. Like all the overhauls to that were just incredibly well done. Definitely a lot of features I'd love to see carried forward into like the next historical title. But yeah, that's my initial take is A. I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, that's a very good introduction, I will say. You're making me feel all warm and fuzzy about this game that I don't necessarily love, like in a romantic kind of way,
Right.
I do think that you're right about a lot of it. It's such a well-polished game. It just looks so good. It runs fairly well as well. It's massive, despite not getting those last expansion packs that I think were kind of canceled, right?
That is definitely a big weak point for Three Kingdoms, was the DLC structure, especially starting off with, was it the 8 princes, 10 princes, however many princes?
Yeah.
Where,
Empire
like,
Divided,
really,
something like that.
Well, their very first DLC like jumped the time period, and so you weren't even playing in the same you weren't playing the same time period, and like where you had larger DLCs, like people wanted to go, see Korea or whatever expanded upon, and Nanban or however you say that coming in. There was just way more exciting things to explore than the Prince DLC, which was like a bad way to start the DLCs, in my opinion.
Yeah. I do like its character focus. It has some amazing diplomatic gameplay, and I think as a game, the overall package is quite amazing. For me personally, what sort of keeps me away, and I might be alone in this, but I think the UI, there's something about the UI, despite being very artistic and like gorgeous, that just I can't get a hold on the UI. It's sort of all over the place. Do you have like the same feeling, or like?
I actually haven't. I knew that's what you were gonna say, because I've heard you talk about this before.
Yeah.
The UI I think is really, I like the kind of painted style of it. I think artistically it's very beautiful. It's very overwhelming. I think it's overbearing at times, but it doesn't bother me nearly as much as it seems to bother you, so I can kind of look past it. But it is very noisy.
Right. But as a game, I don't have an issue, honestly, with putting it in A tier. I think it is a great game. It's not necessarily for me, but I do recognize its strengths, and there are many of those. So I guess we'll settle on A tier here.
I think it's a solid A. I think it's a really, like I said, I think probably the biggest thing that stands out for me is they had a very specific vision, like CA did, and I think they executed on it very well. Whether or not it's your taste, I don't necessarily love like hero units, so to speak, like the generals being able to single-handedly wipe armies. But I think they did it really well. I think the abilities and the various like tactics are pretty cool. I just wish that was toned down a little bit. And if you play like, obviously they have the historical mode, it feels like you're playing like half the game. Like you're just kind of like nerfing the game for yourself. So,
yes, exactly. I wish that was like
very fleshed out.
Yeah, a bit more of an emphasis there would have been nice. And if we ever have a Three Kingdoms 2 or whatever you want to call it, actually I don't want to call it that. If we have another game set in China, it would be awesome if we actually had Korea and Japan as well. Because for me, I really, a necessity for me, honestly, is having some type of ocean to sort of split up the campaign map and everything. And China is just like one big rock,
They did a couple things to make it interesting, the rivers, and they had mountains that were impassable. But it's not the most exciting landmass.
Right. It is beautiful though. All right. Let's remove Three Kingdoms.
Take it off.
And next one. Here we go.
Whew. Got a lot to go through here.
Which one? Oh my god.
There you go.
All right. Empire. That's a big name.
Empire. I know you have strong feelings on this one, so I'm excited to hear your spiel on it.
I do. Obviously, Empire. Wow. 2009 game. That is a long time ago now. Time goes by fast.
This game's almost 20 years old, bro.
Don't say it. And that's weird, right? Because like Empire, much like Rome 2, Empire kind of was that next gen Total War. And much like Rome 2, it had a bad launch. But I think what it turned out had a lot of cut content. So Empire's potential was never met. But the fact that it's still fun to play despite its kind of varying to bad AI, It's fairly limited map in terms of, you know, very, very little Africa. Could have been, you know, more of these sort of South Americas. Could have been a larger map, you know, one province, France. Triggered. But
I've never heard you say that before. That's new.
No, never. Yeah.
You have a problem with that?
I do not repeat myself ever. But it's just this time period that's never been done again, obviously, except for Napoleon, kind of. But
Right.
you know, it's such a unique time period in gaming as a whole, especially from like a AAA company, and the fact that you can, you know, take your armies overseas, like different theaters. You had naval battles. It felt like this was an era where video games tried something new, and it felt like something new. Like it didn't feel like another Medieval 2, you know, or like another Rome. It was completely new, and because all of that, I'm partial to also put it in an A tier.
Wow.
But what's difficult about the A tier for Empire is of course not meeting potential, being lackluster, and optimally today you're gonna want to play it with mods.
Right.
And so even though I want to do A, I don't know, maybe it's a B tier.
I think
it just, you know,
A
like,
is pretty high. If we were gonna meet in the middle, it'd be B, because I actually had it in C tier.
damn son.
Yeah, and I can explain why, but
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
your reasonings. A feels high because I think Empire, it's kind of like Three Kingdoms, where they had a very clear vision and they were ambitious in many ways. I'd say Three Kingdoms was an ambitious game, based on what came before, right? Empire was very similar, like you said. They really did try. They like swung for the fences. Where it's like a game like Three Kingdoms where they had a strong vision, I don't think it's executed as well. I think they had just way too many technical problems. Siege battles are an absolute like slog and nightmare, as well as like, you know, urban conflicts in the streets. It's really cool that they have it. You know, they have little towns and stuff, but
Yeah.
actually fighting the lineman formations, battling your cavalry, like pathing, there was just so many issues that prevented the battles from really being as epic as they should have been.
Absolutely.
But, you know, the pure open field like line battles are just amazing to this day. They look incredible.
Yeah.
It's just everything around that is so buggy, and yeah, like you said, campaign map feels kind of unfinished almost.
Yeah.
But I did like that they tried something. They really did swing for the fences with it. So it's extremely ambitious, incredible time period, but just has so much bugginess and clunkiness to it. Really hard to go back to. I think the addition of naval battles was awesome, but they're not that much fun to play. They're fun to watch. That's about it.
Yeah.
So I had it for a variety of reasons. I think it's a strong title from like a theme and a thematic and like what they were going for. I just think the execution was kind of weak.
You have a very good point. I think where my opinion on Empire, let's say, differs from Three Kingdoms is that to me, they're kind of opposites. It's kind of where in 3K, I can recognize that it's an amazing game, but it's not for me. But with Empire, I absolutely see its many flaws, but it is for me. You know?
That's fair.
But I do think that overall, B sounds all right.
Does that hurt? Does that hurt to put it there? You can put it in A if you want. A feels high to me though. I'm just gonna say that.
I think if we want to sort of
great.
put the best of the best in S and A, I think Empire is good at it, B, honestly.
Yeah, I guess we didn't preface this with like, also, are we talking about their ranking now or when they released, right? And I think we're kind of doing a mix of both, which is probably the good call.
I think we're talking about it now because we also want to talk about the mods availability, right? So sort of how they sort of, you know, like if you are to play them now, how fun will it be? And with mods, with sort of Pirates Uber Alles and stuff, I would put it between S and A. I guess we have to mention the mod capability because for me, mods in 3K don't really do that much.
Yeah, I don't know of many like overhaul. I don't know if there even are.
I guess you have the big, you have the big what's it called? It's this one guy that makes these like overhaul mods for all of the games. Something R. I don't know. This one is tough. This one is tough, but I'm fine with B, honestly. We have to fill out this whole thing anyway, so yeah.
I'm good with B.
Okay, cool.
All right.
That was
a lot. That's challenging because there's so much we can say about each entry, but we have so many to cover.
Yeah. So in summation, ambitious, new, daring, but no sort of, didn't meet potential and very buggy.
Yeah, they bit off more than they could chew.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go.
Oh boy, my turn. Let's
Your
see.
turn.
What am I gonna get? Give me something good. Give me some good.
Oh my god.
Troy.
Troy the Wonder Boy.
Troy is a tricky one. Yeah, Troy is really tricky for me. So I also recognize, I think the what is it, CA Sophia made Troy?
Yes.
And they also made Dynasties, right?
They also made Pharaoh and Dynasties, yes.
And Dynasties.
Yeah.
I think that studio has a really, really
oh, by the
awesome
way,
graph.
they also picked up Rome 2 after
That's
CA left it, essentially.
Yeah, they picked it up and cleaned it and polished it and pushed it back up. I think CA Sophia, I don't really have anything negative to say about that studio because I think they have a really cool like vision of what Total War is, and I think they do have some ambitions. I think they're limited by the scope of maybe budget or just like what they can actually do with the titles given the time frames they have to push them out. So Troy feels like they did try new things and it felt ambitious. It didn't really land for me personally. I actually really am struggling on this one where it lands. Troy was like, I think they're, what do they call it, the legend behind the myth? Is that what the base like experience was called?
Yeah.
Or truth behind the myth, sorry.
Right,
truth behind.
Yeah.
I think that was just like such a weird way to go about it because you had like pseudo fantasy elements, but you didn't go all the way, but you also weren't historical. And I think they were trying to do something where they're like, there's this narrative of the Trojan War, right? And you can go the very fantastical, like gods are directly involved, or you can go the more grounded, realistic, like historical angle. But they try to hybrid of both, and I don't think that worked for me. So from like a vibe, atmosphere perspective, it was weird. You had hero units. They weren't necessarily as impactful as like Three Kingdoms. And then the armies themselves just felt like almost generic and bland, given the time frame. The battles, I like how they had different elements on the battle maps themselves. So you had like tall grass, you had mud. You had all these things that could impact and actually drive tactics, which was a really cool feature. It's just, you'd run in with Achilles, and he wouldn't be as impactful as you would expect, but he also was impactful enough that he was a big consideration in the battle. So it felt kind of just like the worst of both worlds to me. So Troy, actually, I'd probably land it between B and C.
Okay.
I admit the time period isn't the most intriguing, but I can appreciate what they tried to do with it, given like kind of the limited scope of the units you could have, the lack of cavalry, things like that. I just think those like mythical units outside of the actual like what was the mythology DLC called? What?
Literally mythos.
Yeah. Outside of the mythos, the like anything before that just felt so underbaked, and like the fact that the Minotaur was just a big guy, it just felt lame. Like they should have just stuck to a route, like pick a lane and just go with that. So I'd probably go C, but I think it had a lot of really cool things. I really liked the resource management. I like that it was more than just one singular resource. I thought that was really well done, and the diplomacy was actually fairly well done too. So
yes, yeah, we're of pretty much one mind. I think that exactly what you said about the launch period, it didn't feel right. It never felt right, this whole truth behind the myth setting. But today we obviously have mythos, and even with the truth behind the myth, but especially now, I always loved the campaign map. It was just beautiful and vast, and I really
varied. Yep.
yeah. Sorry.
Oh, and just very varied. as well.
Exactly. I loved the soundtrack. It just gave it like this whole ancient Greek vibe. I think this is the, I might be wrong, but I think this is like the first, well, there aren't that many to choose from, but the first historical type, game where you had entirely unique mechanics for each faction. And that was quite fun. It made it very different to play as the Lion of Mycena. What's his name again? the main guy?
Agamemnon?
Agamemnon. And,
or Menelaus.
And like Paris, I really liked Paris's thing with Helen and everything. It was so much fun. And kind of just like, I don't know, just kind of lovely. Like, that is a game that made me feel romance, And especially with Mythos, they like brought in the actual fantasy type units, and that hit well. Despite that, it's not a game that I come back to really. It's a game that I can appreciate, but also a game that in many ways failed. Failed to be historical like and is an historical feeling, but as you mentioned, it did something pretty unique with resources, with the diplomacy related to that and stuff. And so while I kind of initially, I always feel like, oh, Troy is such a failure, like, when I think about it, at least now, I'm like, okay, it's, it can be anywhere, honestly, between like D and A for me. But if we're trying to be like overall here, I think it's either C or B. Just kind of.
I think it's, Sorry, it's kind of right in the middle for me there. Yeah, I agree with everything you said too. It's awkward. That's probably the word I'd use to describe it. It's awkward. But I think they had really cool features. I like Odysseus's like outposts. I think the faction specific features were really cool. Yeah,
but it did fail to, it obviously had a multiplayer campaign, but only 1v1. It would have been fun to like be more factions there at the same time. Blah, blah, blah. I think if we want to sort of discriminate here, I do like Empire more than Troy. You know?
We can pop it into C for now.
Yeah, let's...
maybe at the end we can revisit, talk through really quick. And see
sure. All right.
I think that's fair.
Back to the Wheel of War. It's getting... there's not many left here.
Yeah, we're really narrowing it down
it's
here.
Like thinning.
We're really, really cutting it down here. This is you, right? I went
This
Troy?
Is me, yes.
Oh,
that's some mobiles. Oh my god, Rome Mobile. The probably, absolutely the one that I've played the least of the mobile games.
I will defer to you because I played this a bit on my iPad and I was like, I don't like playing these on mobile.
Yes. Rome Mobile is a good game. It is Rome, right? Just on mobile. What a shocker. But I think in terms of the mobile games, especially, Rome is the one I like the least. Probably because it just feels, you can tell that it's aging. And in terms of the UI, I always preferred how everything worked in the medieval and Empire versions. It also is the game of the three that received the least, I think, sort of updates or like the least
like support and stuff.
Well, it actually has a lot of support, but whereas Medieval 2, let's say, got it actually got city view outside of the battles. But while Rome, I don't think Rome got any like sort of new additions like that. Anyway, that was a long tangent for very little. And so I think just the nature of mobile games, it's kind of tough, honestly. But I think it's a good C tier, just like for like the fun of it,
Yeah, the novelty of it. I did like the. I thought it was kind of cool how they implemented the touch controls, like you could touch and drag to move your troops.
Exactly.
It just is not. I just don't enjoy it nearly as much as a mouse and keyboard does.
Right. All right, you're back.
Oh, you got an easy one.
Yeah.
Come on, give me something good. Here we go.
Oh. All right. Britannia.
Maybe we should. Okay. Okay, here's my full disclosure. I haven't played Britannia. I'm going to defer to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I know of it. I know
Yes.
the complaints, but I will defer to you here.
All right. Well, much like Troy, Britannia is a saga game, and it's the first one. And the saga games are weird because, you know, they're kind of localized. They feel like an expansion, but they are a full game, kind of. And it has some cool mechanics. I do like the mustering system where you sort of muster units over time. So you actually have to think about, okay, can I actually make an army like in a few turns and not like over one turn, you know?
Yeah, they kind of brought that back in Three Kingdoms. I don't know if it's the exact same, but it's kind of similar, right?
It is basically the same, I think.
Okay.
They do have a lot of sort of systems that I feel are kind of under the hood, like a trade system, because you actually don't have, I don't think you have trade agreements in Britannia, but you have like a generalized trade which is impacted by various buildings that you build. So it's a bit more hands-off in that way, but a lot more hands-on in terms of what kind of estates that you give your generals, loyalty of characters, whether you sort of have a sense of English kingdomness or like Vikingness, you know, like a lot of that stuff. So it is an exciting type of game, but at the same time, we're talking England in the, what is this, 700-800s. It's gray, it's like drab.
Very, yeah.
Exactly. The visuals are, you know, like it's basically an Attila based expansion. So it runs like shit as well. It actually runs worse for me than Attila somehow.
I heard a lot of performance issues. I saw the middling reviews. I was really into Attila at the time, but it just didn't interest me at all. It felt like a spin-off that wasn't worth really trying. So it's actually the only mainline entry I haven't played.
Right. Well, mainline. Is it actually mainline?
I guess it's true. Yeah, debatable.
Exactly. But I think, you know, a lot would have been different if they had added Normandy, if they had added Norway, maybe Denmark, because like then you would have actually had a bigger use for those naval battles that actually are in the game, you know? You would have had this idea of, oh, we're actually going from these places to Viking in like the UK, you know, in Britannia, I mean.
Yeah. You're a little biased there, though. Let's admit.
Let's admit, but also I'm the channel owner.
Good point.
So.
Good point.
That's something I did not mention about Troy, actually, is that it doesn't have naval battles, but it has a lot of water, which sucks, you know?
Yeah, that was super awkward.
Yeah, Britannia is not a terrible game overall, but I think it is probably the worst Total War game.
Wow.
Maybe. And so it's a fairly clear D, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. Everything I've heard about it kind of reinforces that. But even the worst, like to your point, even the worst Total War game is a fun game.
Yeah.
It can be fun, right?
Yeah, it can be fun, yeah. Like if it was the only Total War game, sure. it would have been something different, you know?
Would you say it failed to live up to the saga of the series?
Oh, damn. This was, it was just like, I hate that they began with this saga venture, you know? I feel like it took so much.
Yeah, then it just like died off.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on from.
I can go again because you handled that one.
Yes,
if you want. All right, let's see. Hopefully, it's one I've played.
Mm-hmm.
I've played all the other ones. Oh, here we go.
Oh, damn! It's a big one.
Man, this is a big one. This is Rome. This is Rome. Rome Total War was the game changer. I mean, that was when Total War really stepped into itself. It's all, I mean, how many features from Rome are still present in the series to this day? It established Total War as a household name, as a true franchise. I mean, what else can you say about Rome? It is in my opinion, a true masterpiece. It's definitely one of the best entries in the series, even though it has aged. I would say it's definitely aged very poorly in some ways, but the scope of it, the scale of it, I mean, it was absolutely mind-blowing going from medieval Total War to Rome. The jump into the 3D graphics from the sprites, all the new mechanics, the new campaign map with actual armies moving on it. As before, they were more of just like almost like a board game where you were moving pieces on the board that could just jump entire provinces. Now you had agents, you had armies, you had generals with different personalities, generals' speeches, incredibly cinematic battles, massive sieges, city maps. I mean, there's just so many things Rome did right that even in the series to this day, I don't think have been like recaptured fully. I put like hundreds and hundreds of hours into Rome. For me, it has to be an S tier. But I can see an argument why it might be lower now. It definitely has aged a little poorly compared to others, but I think it's an incredibly cool game.
Yes, absolutely. Remember, we only have 3 S tier titles, and I think that
that's true. That's a good point.
And we also have a Rome remastered here. Just FYI. I agree with everything you just said. When it came out, it was absolutely fantastic. There was nothing like it. It was my first Total War game and completely changed my sort of idea on what a strategy game could be. It was just so different and massive and perfect in every way, honestly. It does have some game-breaking bugs that, or maybe not bugs, but design flaws in terms of AI in like city battles and stuff like that, which you might not have noticed, being young. But if you go back now, right, you will feel like that can be campaign ruining. Obviously, the mods were amazing back then as well. I actually didn't play. I played one Rome mod, and that was Roma Surrectum 2, and it was fantastic. I don't know. Rome is just like really, really good. But these days, I
hear all the negatives, but my counter to that is incendiary pigs. So.
What about naked barbarians?
Naked barbarians and screaming barbarians.
Screaming barbarians.
Yeah, and
they're like head tossers.
The Egyptian, completely ahistorical.
Oh yes, exactly.
That they just like made up on the spot. Amazing. Yeah.
Obviously, it also has Barbarian Invasion DLC.
Yeah. I get your arguments. It hasn't aged very well, especially considering now we have a remastered version that cleaned up some stuff.
Yeah. Obviously, we can say things about that as well. Rome 2's visuals are kind of timeless. They have a very stylistic look to them, and they do look good. But again, those animations, though, they kind of take you out of the game a little. Yeah. I would say it's a very clear A tier for me.
I'm good with A.
When it came out, absolutely yes. But yeah, okay, awesome. Yeah. Good.
Okay, you're up. I mean, what more can you say about Rome? It really did establish the series as we know it, right?
Yes. And it's only, like everything that we do now is basically based on Rome. They haven't really changed up that much in terms of, maneuvering, in terms of the campaign map structure. Obviously, right, like they've added a lot of, events or mechanics, but it's all Rome basically. All right?
Spin that wheel of war. See what you get.
Which one? Oh, it's gonna be Empire Mobile. Another mobile. All right, you have not played mobile, right? Empire Mobile.
I have not played Empire Mobile.
No. Well, it's where is it here?
It's all you.
Here we go. It's a great game. It's the latest Total War game in terms of releases. It is Empire on mobile and iPad, and obviously that can sound difficult in terms of, using your fingers instead of the mouse pointer and everything, but it works pretty well. You just have to spend some hours learning things. What Feral has done with Empire for mobile is quite miraculous as well. It looks great on the iPad especially. Runs fairly well, even though you can definitely tell that you're going to want sort of the most powerful of the iPads if you want to sort of enjoy this to the full. But they did fix up a few things. One thing especially, what was that? They added, when you capture a region, I think you have the choice of sacking it or liberating it or something like that, like they had in Napoleon, They also introduced a new system of unit replenishment, which was nice, and you could toggle the new one or the older one. A lot of good stuff there. is essentially kind of like an Empire remastered in many ways, which makes it the best version of Vanilla Empire, despite, or if it weren't for the mobile thing. And I think that obviously will turn a lot of people off.
That's kind of the disappointment with it from my perspective, is I would have just preferred an Empire remaster.
Yes.
on desktop, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible though, because I remember back in the day, Empire, bringing my poor little PC to its knees with its graphics, which is funny to look back at now, and now it can run on a mobile device. So just showing my age here a little bit.
No, it's the same for like Rome as well. Kind of wild. Overall, Empire Mobile is a really good game. I think it deserves a strong B tier as well in the overall system. Okay. It's you can't really make it any better than it already is, but because it's kind of tough or like finicky to deal with, you might not get as many hours as the regular Empire anyway. So the better game, but the game that you won't have as much fun playing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, actually, do they have modding on the mobile version?
I don't think so.
Can you get mods?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is more polished though. All right.
Another mobile off the deck. Let's see. As we go to war in. Let's get the mobile out of here.
How's that possible? Yeah.
It's just all of them in a row.
What are the odds of that?
That's fine. I did play this one a little bit, similar to the Rome one. I played for a bit, got really just frustrated, especially considering where Medieval 2 is at in regards to modding and things like that on the desktop. It felt just like a worse to play version, even though it does, I think, also had some quality of life improvements, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say about Medieval 2 on mobile other than it's all right. It's Medieval 2 on the go, so that's always fun. But I really struggle with mobile gaming in general, so
right.
I'm not the authority here.
Yeah, well, you're right. It is Medieval 2. Obviously, it's not just Medieval 2, it's all of the expansions as well, which makes it a really massive thing, or I guess Medieval and Medieval Kingdoms are two different games on the App Store, maybe, but they can be launched from the same app or something like that. Anyway.
Really? Weird.
Let's just consider them the same thing. In terms of the chill factor, I think this might be the best one.
Okay.
Purely because it runs the best as well in my experience. It looks better than Rome. It runs better than Empire, and it's Medieval 2, There's not much more to say about that, other than what you also said, which was that it won't be as fun to play just because it's like touch, and that can be tough to deal with, It's obviously also a tiny screen in comparison to like PC monitors.
I think for me, the fact that we can play it on mobile and it runs as well as it does, I'd probably actually put this in B tier, by the way.
Yeah, and also something to mention, I think for both Rome, Empire, and Medieval 2, you can actually use a mouse and keyboard if you connect it.
Oh, that makes sense.
I'm pretty sure you can, but most people probably won't. So I do think a B tier is good here, honestly.
Let's get these mobile ones out of here. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Yep. Your turn. Let's go. Spin that wheel. We got a lot to cover here, man. We got to go.
We do. All right.
Whew, this is pretty early in the list to get this big one.
It is. Well, I guess, are we like almost half? Like a third, maybe? I don't know. Medieval 2. What can I say that hasn't already been said a billion times? Medieval 2, let's just get it out of the way. It's probably the best Total War of all time.
Easy D tier.
Easy D. Big D. It has so much going for it. The time period is interesting. The expansion campaigns are massive and fun and feel unique, with like new soundtracks and a different UIs and different vibe. The Grand Campaign itself has quite a few factions and they feel more or less different, although some of the European factions feel similar, but who cares? They're awesome. The soundtrack is amazing. Visuals hold up to this day in a nostalgic, charming way. The events that happen in the game and that change gameplay, actually, like gunpowder, the Black Death, the discovery of America, the Mongol invasions. There's so many things here that are just so much fun. Crusades. And the fact that the Kingdoms expansion introduced, and it's the only fucking Total War game that has this, the Hot Seat campaign. Which is why I played this game for like thousands of hours. I did not play this on Steam, but I have to have thousands of hours in this game. So to me, yeah, a clear S tier, honestly. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Easy S. Definitely, simply just one of the best entries in the entire franchise. I think it hit highs that no other entry really has even still hit to this day. And I think it lends itself, that time period and the years, the time span and the technology, like you're saying, is just the best suited for the Total War formula. Even though I can appreciate, later entries or earlier ones as far as chronological order or whatever time periods. I just think Medieval nails that perfect blend of like a battle and campaign experience. And so simply just, like I said, one of the best entries in the entire franchise. Hard to argue against it being an easy S. The modding is obviously incredible. You have the Third Age mods. You have all kinds of just full overhaul mods that can completely change the experience and make it and modernize it in many ways, and just give you like thousands upon thousands of hours of entertainment. It's just an awesome game.
And also compared to Rome, whereas Rome basically has only the Roman factions be at the center of it, like in terms of the Senate and everything, you have you have a bunch of the Christian factions having the Crusades feature. Many of the Muslims have the Jihad, or like all of them. Every faction experiences these like larger events. It's just like it is basically just a medieval Rome skin. Looking better, but it features so many new ideas, which completely changes everything.
I think it had a lot of just, I guess the word I would use is personality. It had so much personality from all the mechanics, like you're saying, each faction had a unique personality, although the European ones could blend a little bit, but like your generals, the traits they could get were hilarious. You could just totally craft like a narrative of your campaign, unlike any other entry to me. And amazing.
And the hilarious general speeches as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When you're like drunken or whatever it is.
Exactly.
They killed it.
Nailed. All right.
Easy S, right out of the way.
S.
Is this me? This
Simple
is me, right?
S. It's you now, yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
That's yours.
This is
Good
fitting.
one.
This is fitting. All right, Shogun. Yeah, I can talk a little bit about this.
Okay, the first one.
Shogun. Very first one, I got it on release. I went to my local, I don't know what it was, like a Best Buy essentially, right?
Nice.
Went and picked up the CD-ROMs. You have to imagine, when Shogun, you look at it now, it has the sprites, it looks incredibly dated. But Shogun came out the year 2000, right? Like this is this is over 20 years old. It came out at a time when I was playing things like, Age of Empires 2 had came out, I think the year before, 99.
Right.
Tiberium Sun on the Command and Conquer side. So similar to like what you said with Rome, where it completely changed how you viewed strategy games, that was Shogun for me. I went from, these RTS games that were incredible in their own right. I mean, AoE 2 is a legendary game. But suddenly, like, my third eye was opened with Shogun, because it's like you have this encompassing campaign with the battles as part of them, and I loved the actual flavor of it being like a board game almost. Like if you look at the map now, they're actually, your armies are like actual like board game figurines and stuff like that, and your agents are. So you kind of move them region to region. It has aged terribly, but at the time, being able to see individual units. Because you kind of had to, Age of Empires, you could get big armies, but you kind of had to use your imagination to get to the scale that Shogun actually realized, right? Like actual battles with hundreds and hundreds of combatants, arrows flying, horses. The sprites are so dated, but like at the time, they just were mind blowing. So The other thing for Shogun is it has, in my opinion, still the best agent system in that it has the videos of the ninjas and the geisha and stuff. Freaking hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
It showed the success or the failures were especially hilarious for like the ninja actions and the agent actions. So I don't know where I put it. If I were to look at it today, it's a D. It just has aged so terribly.
Yeah.
You can barely even get it to run now. So I'd probably put it in the D just because something has to go down there. At the time, though, Shogun was a huge game changer. You could tell it wasn't quite to where it hit the highs of Rome, but for me, it was just an incredibly eye-opening title and like expanding. This is what a strategy game could be, even though it had, you know, looking at it now was really quaint, really limited scope, just Japan, a couple of regions, but even that was crazy compared to what came before. So, I mean, there's a reason the whole franchise spawned from it. But I'd probably put it in D, even though I have very fond memories of Shogun.
Well said. Imagine if they made a sequel.
Right? The potential.
We also forgot to mention with Medieval 2, you mentioned those agent videos. Medieval 2 has a lot of those, right? But they actually skipped those videos for Rome, right?
Yeah, Rome didn't feature them.
No, so that's interesting. Well, yeah, well said, well explained. I tried my hand at Shogun, but have not really like played it, you know, a lot at all. But it must have been something else, as you said, when it came out. And I'm happy that it did, because it turned, you know, there is one continuous line from Shogun releasing to us sitting here making this tier list, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, we talked about Rome, established the series as it is, but Shogun and Medieval 1, I mean, they got a lot right out of the gate. They got the overall, like, overarching, you know, the mix of the campaign and the battles was all established in those ones. It was just really rough.
Yeah.
I mean, it came out like the Paleolithic era, so we gotta keep that in mind.
Exactly. All right.
Great game, though.
Well said, well said. Age gets the better of most of us.
I can't remember. There was a unit in Shogun 1. They were called, like, I can't remember what they were called, Sword Saints or something, but they were a single, like, hero type of unit. So hero units were even in the very first entry.
Oh, wow.
They were a single person unit, right? And they could just cut through anything. So my favorite thing was to have like a doom stack of those.
Yeah.
Just destroy entire armies. It's kind of funny though, like you hear people like talking about like hero units ruining Total War.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, those were in the very first entry. We had hero units.
My whole life is a lie.
Yeah, right.
Crazy. All right. Well done.
Let's see what you get. What do you got? What do you got?
Let's see what's up. Oh my God. It's Attila. Oh, all right.
The Huns have arrived.
The Huns, the dark sheep of the series. But what a sheep. What a sheep.
Yeah, you have some strong feelings on Attila, right?
I think all of us do, in a way. But yes, I do. I think it's an amazing game. I think it's absolutely up there with... It's tough to say. I want to say it's up there with Medieval 2. It's tough to say because Medieval 2 is so much, but like, you know, if we're talking vanilla games with no mods, Attila was such a massive step up from Rome 2. It looks a little better. There are so many mechanics finally, like governors, like fertility, like family systems. You keep in mind that Rome didn't really get its family and sort of, you know, decision systems until Sophia came back, I think.
That's actually wild to think about. I forget that. I honestly forget about that.
And by that time, Attila had already been out for like 2 years, you know. So
that's wild.
It is wild. And Attila is kind of the barbarian invasion of Rome 2. And it's just so much fun, the idea and the gameplay of the Western and the Eastern Roman empires. It's such an asymmetrical game, probably the most asymmetrical in the entire series, and I love that. And that's what I don't like about the latest games, is that they're trying their best to be symmetrical, like factions having one city at you know, launch, which is just not, what the heck. Attila is not like that. One faction has 1,000 provinces, and another one has 1, you know, or another one has 0. There are hordes in this game, which is another a mechanic that also Rome 2 should have had, but which is exclusive to Attila. It's such a good game. The literally only thing, and you know, vomit, whatever, is the performance. Is the performance. But it has also some of the best mods now. Like mods are being made that will soon change the map. You have the Lord of the Rings mod, which will probably better be similar in quality, but obviously modern version of the Medieval 2 Lord of the Rings mods. There's just so incredibly much there. So when all is said and done, my dude.
Let's hear it.
It's an S tier.
No. Okay, we only have 3 S's and Attila's in there. I actually agree with everything you said. I think it's an incredibly cool title. I'm gonna be honest, the performance is really hard to get over. It does make the campaign kind of a slog and just how poorly it runs. I love the atmosphere to an extent. It is very brown and drab and depressing, right? And that's kind of the entire vibe they were going for. I agree with you about the factions. I think it's probably one of the most varied in the terms of like your experience, depending on your faction. You know, you play the Huns versus, you know, the Roman empires or one of the remains of the Roman empires. It's an incredibly different experience. You're not just painting the map, you are like survival, and I think that's exactly what they were going for. Super apocalyptic, super hardcore survival mode, and they nailed it. I mean, they nailed the vibes. I liked all the additions of like the siege changes and how you could like actually burn the cities down and you know, just set aflame the entire region when you like raise the when you raise the city. It just has that like fire that just ravages. I mean, you truly felt like an apocalyptic force when you played as the Huns, and that is super fun. I think for me, the battles feel very intense. They feel very deadly. The performance does hold it back a bit, and it kind of railroads you, but the mods, you know, help a lot with that. The Medieval Kingdoms 1212 mod is just crazy good. They're only improving it. I don't know if I go S, though.
It is basically, you know, they are making that new map with new provinces. That will be a Medieval 3 in like a year or so, you know, or like already is in a way.
It's kind of like fuck it, we'll do it ourselves kind of
exactly. And we
won't.
And we didn't mention the expansions, the Charlemagne expansion, which is really awesome as well, and focuses on Western Europe, which you know, like the entirety of it this time. So for me, the Charlemagne expansion alone, especially if you add like a mod to it, which makes that essentially the time period of Britannia. The Charlemagne expansion is a better Britannia than Britannia, in a way, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I didn't get Britannia's, because I also love that DLC or that expansion, and so I'm like, I don't know what experience I'm getting differently than Charlemagne, which I already loved.
Yeah.
Age of Charlemagne's a good call out. That honestly, without Medieval Kingdoms 1212, I probably have more hours in Charlemagne campaigns than the base game. Even though they're more limited in scope, I think it just was such a cool vibe, and probably played it the most because it was the closest we had gotten to Medieval 3, right?
Yes, exactly.
So I don't know if I agree with S. You can put it in S for now. I probably would say A, but
I think
S is a hard sell for me for Attila.
Yes, and the reason for that is the performance, or like is there more?
Mostly performance driven. Yeah.
So it's that sort of ruined that it drags it down. It makes sense.
Mostly performance, and somewhat it just feels extremely focused on delivering that like vibe of an apocalyptic, dreary kind of setting that it just feels kind of limited in that, where it's not maybe as, you know, vibrant as other ones. So
yeah, and you know, it does make a lot of sense to put it in A instead of S. My heart says S, but when you think about it as well, it's not just a performance, right? It is that this is a much improved Rome 2, but it uses Rome 2's fundamentals, like the province system, which in my opinion is a big negative. That is something that Medieval Kingdoms, the mod, has fixed in a way, because it actually destroys the province system and makes each city their own city, you know, which is wild that they managed to do, and they also raise the building limit to like 10 or something, and it adds a population system. So like, you know, Medieval Kingdoms really also does a lot for it. But Attila itself, it has a lot of lacks, for sure.
It has a lot going for it. Another thing I'd raise with Attila is the building system is a weakness for me. It felt like the province system, in general, didn't quite work, but the buildings themselves, like, I liked kind of what they were going for, where buildings had negative and positive traits. In many ways, it felt like you were being punished for expanding and or, you know, upgrading and building your cities. Because there was just so many negatives in terms of like squalor and food consumption and stuff, that it just felt like I would rather not upgrade and not get those penalties, which is kind of a weird feeling when you're trying to feel progression, right?
Yes, exactly. So. I do want it at S, but I do understand an A.
Maybe we can bump it up. We'll see.
We'll see. Well, let's keep it an A for now.
Okay.
All right. Away with you, Attila. Love you though.
Attila. Okay, what do I got? This is me, right?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Oh, back to back. I talked about the OGs.
Yes.
I probably won't have as much to say about Medieval, because it really... You hadn't played this one either, right?
A few hours, but not enough to really talk about it.
And not on release, right?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Medieval was interesting. I actually had less playtime than in Shogun. I did get it because I'm like, hell yeah, Shogun Total War was rocking my world. Medieval comes out, and even an even better time period, maybe more appealing. But I was actually kind of disappointed with Medieval, because it just is like almost literally a reskin of Shogun. They added a few new mechanics. The map was different, but I found myself actually, I distinctly remember back in the day going back to Shogun, because I just felt more comfortable, and it just felt like it didn't add enough. So I didn't play Medieval as much. I do remember the AI was like super aggressive and super like they just like tweaked the AI out, where they were like aggressive and not irresponsible. I'm trying to think of the term, like illogical. It just like there was no rhyme or reason to the AI's actions, but they just like hated you more than anything. It's kind of like the civilization like Gandhi nuking you kind of thing, but with every faction. That's all I really remember is getting like a younger me getting like upset and pissed off that everyone hated me and like going and crying, you know?
No.
So I didn't play Medieval as much. It is essentially a complete reskin of Shogun. It has also aged horribly. I think it's just as difficult to play now. I don't think there was any like real enhancements. They both use the Total War 1 engine, I think is the name of it. And so essentially the same architecture. Getting it to run now is kind of a nightmare. I haven't returned to it in years. I'd probably put it in D tier.
All right, yeah.
But it just didn't move the needle.
Right. Are you sure that it's not just like a little better looking than Shogun? Because I feel like the map looks a bit more...
The campaign map was improved a little bit. It looks better. It's kind of just a reskin with some, enhancements here and there.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Right. Yeah,
I think it came out a year after. Like it came out very quickly after. So
yeah, they made games fast in this in this era. Yes. Okay, so
they cranked out like 10 Total Wars in the time it takes to make one.
Right.
Awesome.
That's funny that the two medievals are on the opposite sides of the list here.
Yeah. You could feel the potential is there with the time period. It just is so rudimentary. It didn't quite hit the highs, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
It's shocking how well Medieval 2 stands up today.
Oh yes, it is.
Oh, buddy.
Okay.
Pharaoh. Where do the sands blow you? Where do they shift you here?
Yes, the mystery of the beetle or whatever. Pharaoh is, like I literally said in the last Total War related video, fairly mid. It's a good game if you're new to Total War, if you don't have any sort of preconceived notions of what the Total War should be. Obviously then most things can be revolutionary in a way. Right. But I find that Pharaoh, first of all, it's it's part of the sort of next gen line of Total War games, which I believe, in my opinion, begins with Warhammer 3, but it doesn't flippin' feature Warhammer 3's 7-player multiplayer campaign, so that's lame. It only
concurrent turns or whatever you call them, like simultaneous turns.
Right. Not even that. So yeah, that's honestly maybe the most important thing of the two, but both of those. It's restricted to a section of the Levant, which, it's a cool section, but important parts of it are missing, let's be real.
Oh yeah.
I find that the soundtrack is not as good as in Troy. The region, just in my opinion, I have never been that into Anatolia. And so having a big focus on Anatolia from the, what are they called again? The Hatti or something? That's not really, that's not really my vibe. It's just, it has some cool things, as you mentioned with Troy. It features some interesting resource systems. It features some interesting things related to new weather effects and the like. That was cool, like on the battlefield in real time. Blah blah blah. But but the right. But the main systems are kind of the same. It still has that remaining feeling of this isn't really history in a way, especially because there was so much focus on the leaders instead of the nations, that's a big one.
Yeah.
And I think that
was weird.
Yes. And so I think that Pharaoh, if I had to place Pharaoh somewhere, and I do want to sort of, rank this kind of on a curve, I think it's a D tier game. In my opinion,
brutal.
Yes. It's overall, for a new player who's obviously not me, it might be either C or B, but I'm somewhere between on this list, C or D. Obviously, D doesn't mean terrible, horrible, like the spawn of hell, right? But it means, but it just means like in relation. I absolutely loved Troy more than Pharaoh. Let's put it that way, right?
That's fair to rank it higher. I had it in C personally, but I get your arguments. I'm good at D.
Yeah.
I hate sand. It's coarse.
Okay.
So that brings it down. Also, as someone that avoids chariots in Total War games, like the Plague, I didn't like that focus on chariots because I always find them unwieldy. They're either like across the entire franchise, they are either like stupidly broken or completely useless. There's no in between with chariots, I feel like. And so I focus on that over like, traditional cavalry and stuff like that was kind of disappointing. It's a Bronze Age game. It's not a time period I think lends itself extremely well to a Total War game. I know it's like a time period people have really wanted for a long time, but Pharaoh on this list probably executes it the worst. Obviously, we've broken Dynasties out on its own, so we'll talk about that. I'm okay with it being in D.
Yep.
I'm fine with that. I will want to preface that with, like you said, it's not a bad game, and also I think CA Sofia has some really incredibly cool ideas. It's just, I think they just need to be given the time and the resources to build it out, right? And potentially even pick a better time period than Bronze Age.
Yes, and exactly, and I think I don't know what the inner workings of CA proper is, but I don't know if Pharaoh was originally supposed to be some sort of expansion for Troy. I don't know. They did sort of, yeah, like they did hint to it with that last, those last heroes that joined that game, because one of them was from Ethiopia or something, right?
Right.
And they had, he had like an ability that lets you see sort of like the expanded map in a way. But yeah, so Pharaoh, also an important thing, the Bronze Age, like you said, in terms of the past 3,000 years of history, it's probably, in my opinion, the lamest time period of them all.
Yeah, I mean, for a total war game, you want a nice variety of units.
Exactly,
variety of tactics. It's like, yeah. I don't know, like, okay, these guys are bronze clubs, and these guys are bronze clubs that are slightly bigger, and they have, you know, scale armor. It just doesn't excite me.
Don't get me started on the cow skin thing.
Yeah, and just the units look lame. I get that they are trying to capture, you know, somewhat probably historically accurate, but
yes,
it just doesn't excite you. You get the most elite tier of your units, and it's like, okay, he's got a leopard skin on his head instead of a cow, right?
Something like that, yes.
I agree with you, though, about the characters. That's such a weird focus, like, to make it's not even a faction. You're choosing the character. It's very strange.
Yes, it doesn't make sense in our enlightened opinion.
Of course, yeah.
All right.
I'm good with D. I think that's a little brutal to Sophia, but I also agree with it. So C or D was my choice too.
You see my D. That's good.
I see.
All right. So the next one was that you now, right?
It's me.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Let's see.
Doing it, making progress.
Let us see what kind of thing we
Warhammer
can hammer
2.
out right now. I didn't realize I put them all in a row in the wheel. Warhammer 2. So I really enjoy the Warhammer games. I'm one that I find equal enjoyment out of the historical and the fantasy games. I don't really prefer one over the other. If I were to pick, I'd probably lean it a little more on historical. It's just a preferential thing, but I think the Warhammer games are actually pretty awesome. Warhammer 2 is probably, it's really hard, because Warhammer 2 is probably the one I played the most, to be honest, out of the 3 fantasy games. Although Warhammer 3 and the Immortal Empires is really cool. Warhammer 2 just had really awesome factions. You brought in this, like, the Skaven, which are a fan favorite. You brought in the Lizardmen, which is my personal favorite.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you know it. I love my scaly boys, you know.
Oh my god, okay, yeah.
Warhammer 2, I had actually A. I thought it was super solid, but that is a caveat that the caveat there is that it is part of the now I can't even remember the name of it's not Immortal Empires, it's Mortal Empires.
Mortal Empires. Yes.
I didn't really love the Vortex campaign. I didn't like the timer. I hate feeling timed in Total War games. I like to kind of build out slowly, or play in a more turtle-like fashion. Yeah. So like the fact that you were racing every other faction to get to this Vortex didn't feel right. So Mortal Empire campaign, I put it A. I think it had a really good selection of factions. I felt like the game itself was in a very healthy state. It didn't have, the severe kind of bugs that maybe Warhammer 3 introduced, and it had way more variety than the first Warhammer. So for me, it was probably the strongest out of the 3 in its release, and also when Mortal Empires came out.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Warhammer 2 to me is probably, or no, it is by far the worst of the 3.
Dang.
And that's not necessarily because of the game itself, but it's, I'm a big, I need the vibes to sort of mesh with my own in a game, and I just didn't feel right at home in Warhammer 2.
Okay.
Whereas Warhammer 1, for example, it felt more like a fantasy version of history in a way, sometimes with the Empire and everything. Warhammer 2 was just like the most wacky shit you ever saw. Again, with, like you said, with the Skaven and the lizard people and the like jungle things. I think jungle is probably my least favorite biome.
Okay, so Lustria had, and that was the big focus of it, right? You had no interest in any of that.
Exactly. I did like the elves. I think the whole Vortex sort of geographic thing was kind of cool and pretty to look at. And I did enjoy the skeleton Egyptians or whatever they're called. What are they called again?
The Tomb
Kings, yes.
Skeleton Egyptian. But, I mean,
right.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Right. But yeah, so, you know, to me, I don't know. To me, it's like a C.
You didn't like the, you didn't vibe with the vampirates either? The Vampire Coast?
No, because, like, I feel like, you know, when I play a faction, I want the soundtrack to, like, be nice to listen to. I want it to be cool, and that doesn't mean that it has to be some sort of.
That is so specific. I love it.
I know, like, you know, I mean, okay, imagine this. Okay, we're in like a Lord of the Rings. Okay, we're playing as the Shire faction, and you have the Shire soundtrack. Okay, it's lusty. It's good. But then you play as like Isengard. Obviously, you're going to have the Isengard theme there, but I think it would also be kind of fitting to have parts of the Rohan tracks as well, because like that is the region, and both the Isengard tracks and the Rohan tracks, they have a very strong sense of like a melody. So even though the Isengard track is dark, you can sort of vibe with the darkness of it. But in Warhammer 2 and Warhammer 3 and 1, there's not a lot of that soundtrack to vibe to on the campaign map. And especially for darker factions, in my opinion, it's mostly just like dreary, somber tones that you can't even sort of hum to, you know, like it's just there.
It doesn't inspire you, yeah.
No, it doesn't inspire me at all.
I get the argument. I guess from my perspective, you know, if I'm playing the Warhammer games as like as a fantasy perspective, where it's like I want to feel like it's a true fantasy game with very unique factions and units and effects, as opposed to a historical title. I think Warhammer 2 probably realized that the best with its base faction selection. Each one felt very distinct and super high fantasy. Like the Skaven were nothing like, you know, the High Elves, who were nothing like the Dark Elves, who were nothing like the Lizardmen. And so I get your argument where it's like it's way more out there than Warhammer 1, which was like, you know, you had your Empire, you had your Orcs, you had Dwarves. They're very, very almost vanilla-like factions that fit very cleanly into archetypes. Warhammer 2 definitely went out there with its factions, and I think I like that more about it, but I can see why you might not vibe with it.
Right.
Hopefully that was a good summary of what you're saying.
Absolutely, yes. So do we wanna agree on
yes,
a
right.
B or?
Yeah, I'd put it in B.
Yeah.
I had it in A, but I'm good with B.
Okay, let's settle on B then. Sounds good to me. I do see the merits, and I know it's a good game.
It's a preference thing, yeah.
Yeah, but to me, I just, you know, kind of like Three Kingdoms, but even more than it, it doesn't vibe with me.
Yeah, I didn't like the Vortex campaign at all, so I really didn't put as much time into it until the Mortal Empires, which I thought was excellent.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, you're up.
Let's go.
What do you got?
What am I getting? Please don't be Warhammer.
Another Warhammer.
No!
I knew it. I knew it.
No. Warhammer 3. All right, Warhammer 3.
Fantasy on even more.
Honestly, Warhammer 3, I really like what they did with the visuals. It's a big lift from the past. It looks sexy, it looks succulent, and that's good because we have Slanesh.
I think it's Nurgle.
I think ew, fuck that shit.
Big booty Nurglings, man.
I think we Nurgle is my least liked faction because of the ugly, shitty fartiness of it all.
My favorite demon faction, actually. So.
I do actually quite like the Realm of Chaos campaign. That was the first one, and I actually quite liked the Realm of Chaos campaign. I really like how it looked, especially in the realm of the Ice Queen. What's her name? What's her faction? Kislev.
In Kislev, yeah.
That was cool. Kislev was a really cool faction. I love the polar bears, and I love their cannons, and just, yeah, everything about it. I also think Cathay was fun. It was fun to balance the whole yin and yang kind of thing. And the idea, the concept of this massive wall, I really like that. The Chaos factions to me also seemed a bit more fun and up my alley than the ones in Warhammer 2, or I guess they're not Chaos factions, the Skaven and things, but, you know, like the mean factions.
The evil
exactly,
factions, yeah.
yes.
We're gonna build a wall, it's gonna be beautiful, keep out all the demons.
Exactly. From China, made in China, by the way. Cathay.
China is gonna pay for it.
And so it's a better game in my opinion. And then the Immortal Empires campaign obviously has everything, which makes it kind of unbeatable in a way. And so
it's kind of like the ultimate Warhammer experience, right?
It is. Really beat that. And obviously they've added a bunch of DLCs and updates, and they keep supporting this game, you know, which I think is. I feel very envious of the Warhammer fans. I am, you know, I'm not an anti-Warhammer person. I feel like I keep saying this in so many instances because I am history first, right? But that doesn't mean I'm anti-Warhammer. I do like Warhammer. I just don't love it. But that is an awesome campaign for a variety of reasons. It's massive, and I wish history got a similar thing. For all of those reasons, Warhammer 3, I don't love it, but it is a good game, and I do like it much more than Warhammer 2, which I would personally put in a C tier, obviously, but I think it's actually deserving of an A tier overall. Despite, obviously, I would put Attila not, you know, like it looks weird, but that's how it is, kind of, you know.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think it's funny because you know, there's a lot of noise and chatter around CAs not innovating and things like that, and I think that's fair to say in some ways, especially if you're a historical fan. It's been kind of a dry spell. I mean, Dynasties was a taste of that, but yeah, we'll talk about that. Warhammer 3, I mean, the fact that they were able to do the Immortal Empires campaign and make it work relatively as smoothly as it does is a monumental effort, and I think it deserves a shout out that they were able to pull off Immortal Empires. It really is like the ultimate Warhammer Total War experience. So yeah, I'd agree. I'd rank it over Warhammer 2 for that alone. Yeah. Even though I enjoyed Warhammer 2 at launch more than 3, I thought the Realms of Chaos campaign was super fun in some ways and super frustrating in others, and Warhammer 3 just felt way more buggy to me. Yeah. Which bugged me. If you know what I'm saying. And I didn't like the factions as much, kind of, you know, in opposition to your preference for those factions. But once Immortal Empires came out, it's really hard to argue that that's not kind of the ultimate fantasy experience in a Total War game. Each faction feels very different, varied. All the demon factions are super fun. I think if you're like a power kind of gamer player, really, you know, in depth into Warhammer, you can identify a lot of flaws. But if you just want some like fun, big spectacle battles, it's really hard to beat that entry. So that's my take.
And also they actually, obviously, like as we've mentioned, they innovated quite bigly in terms of that multiplayer campaign expansion.
The simultaneous turns, the 8-player campaigns.
Exactly.
It's really cool.
It's
if I only had friends other than you.
Yes. So we need that in every game to come, you know. Even though if it will be just you and me, we do still need it. Simultaneous turns is important, you know.
I'm good with it there.
Awesome. Yes. Let's.
That was you, right?
That was me. Yes.
Okay. Kick it off. Let's go.
Okay.
All right. We're getting there.
Final something.
We're getting there. Imagine if you're still watching this.
Imagine if you're still watching this. If you're still watching, you know what to do. Leave a like, leave your comment, sub to the channel. Dynasties.
All that good stuff. All that jazz. Dynasties, however you want to pronounce it. Yeah, it was kind of conglomeration of Pharaoh and Troy, right? And kind of became the ultimate, kind of like Warhammer. For me, it's kind of the ultimate Bronze Age experience. Hard to argue that it isn't better than Troy and Pharaoh, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I have played 2 campaigns in it so far, so I really haven't put as many hours into it. But what I've played, I've really enjoyed. It's more it's like I can recognize kind of you're saying with other entries. I can recognize it's a really, really well done game. It's more just preferential. Like I don't love the time period, and so I don't vibe with it as much. I think it is an absolutely beautiful game. Like the campaign map is gorgeous. I think the factions are really awesome. They're varied. You have all kinds of play styles. You can kind of be a marauding horde if you want to play more of the Eastern flavor, or you can be Trojans and build tall, or be Babylon and play tall, or be Egypt dealing with the Civil War. There's tons of variety. Really is the ultimate kind of Bronze Age experience. The fact that they just developed and released it kind of as a standalone experience and for free, right, is pretty impressive. It's kind of like a love letter to the fans of Pharaoh and Troy. So for that, I do want to give Sophia a lot of props that how much effort they put into making it work.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably put it in a B tier though, and it's more of just I don't love it quite as much as other entries, and it's more just a component of me not loving Bronze Age in Total War in general.
Right.
But I think they improved a ton.
Yeah. Everything you said, the fact that it was free to people who already owned Pharaoh was quite insane. It's better than Troy and Pharaoh. It is those two games combined, like you said, essentially. Although it's more than that, it's also in Assyria, Mesopotamia. It is a absolutely massive campaign, which now all of a sudden is quite varied.
I think the fact that they added all the minor factions to be playable as well just shows kind of the care and love that they put into it, because that would be a ton of work even on itself, because you can play like Achilles and Odysseus and all these ones, and they have all their like Troy functional features. Like they're not like super watered down, maybe in some aspects, I'm not entirely sure, but for all intents and purposes they are the faction they are in Troy. And then you have just a ton of other minor factions that you can just pick and choose. And I think that's so incredibly cool that they just went all out, added so many playable factions, expanded the map. And like you said, it's massive, it's beautiful. It's more of just a component of the time period for me, is the only reason I wouldn't rank it higher. I think it has really, really cool gameplay features, though.
Yeah.
I think it's worthwhile for any Total War fan to play it.
Yeah.
Just to see like what the next gen of medieval could look like, right?
Right. And in comparison to Pharaoh, it added a bunch of systems like the kingdoms that you can sort of join and the civil war in and everything. Exactly, like improved or like extended god worshipping. You had the whole family trees came back, like in a big way. With the whole Troy factions being the same, I seem to remember like they removed parts of it, some of it. I might be wrong, but I feel like they removed, like, let's say in Troy, where like every faction had like between 1 and 3 unique things. I think they sort of took away one of them.
Okay, so they're a little watered down, but
I think a little watered down, but you also gain the Pharaoh Dynasty's mechanics on top of it,
Right.
That's at least by memory. For all that, it has a super nice vibe. It's a shame that it lacks naval battles, because that would be so fun in this game, because of the massive sea.
Right.
And it also lacks Warhammer 3's multiplayer innovations, like we talked about.
I would probably put it, I don't know, I think I had it in B. I can't put it lower than Troy in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I think B is kind of fair. Maybe we filled out B. I don't know if that makes that tier full, but
to me, I kind of want to put it in A, honestly.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue. I guess I only praised it, so maybe I really didn't negative about it. I really don't have that much negative to say about it, so I think A is fair. I think as far as, like I said, it kind of feels like a love letter from CA Sophia for the fans of Pharaoh and Troy. So yeah, it's
certainly not as great or innovating as Rome was on launch, but today Pharaoh will be more fun to play. I enjoy it more than Warhammer 3, but I recognize that Warhammer 3 is a much larger game, and for the people who love this, it's obviously much more than that as well. And I do enjoy it more than Three Kingdoms, even though Three Kingdoms has its innovations. But, it's Pharaoh. It has, as you said, it's kind of like a love letter. It does take some things back from Medieval 2 in a way, with the family trees and everything. So it has a lot of things going for it. I wish, as always, the province system had gotten a renovation and such, but it is the best of what modern Total War has done for history, and it's done it well, I would say.
Yeah, it's probably, I say this after saying it should be a B. To me, I actually enjoy Three Kingdoms more. I think it's just a more fully fleshed out experience. But Dynasties is actually probably the best historical experience that's modern, like in the functionality and graphics and everything, right?
Yeah.
Graphically and feature-wise and gameplay-wise, it's got all the bells and whistles, and I would say it's probably the best historical experience. The only thing holding it back is the time period for me.
Yes, for me as well. But now I can tolerate it because Agamemnon is back, and we also have the Assyrians.
I still can't deal with just the unit looks and anyway. We can move.
Well, it is, is it? I don't know. No, like I do think it's.
Bronze Age just doesn't excite me. It's just not. I understand why people want it in Total War. It's just not exciting to me as a time period. But it's pretty cool that we got like the Bronze Age game, right? Because you can really expand it more than this.
Yeah. Let's.
That's good. Hey, yep.
That's good. Let's shut the fuck up about it. All right. We're in the final 5 now.
Yeah, we got some big hitters in here still too.
We do.
This is you, right?
This is me.
Oh, there you go.
Snap. Snappy for nappy. All right, Napoleon.
Don't come up short on this Napoleon.
Don't you spout that English propaganda. Napoleon, it's essentially a standalone expansion to Empire, right? It's the same, for all intents and purposes, it's the same game, but on a smaller yet bigger scale. I've never understood how to convey that in words. The map is much larger, but it's so much smaller. It's like
it's kind of weird.
The scope is much smaller and focused on Europe. It has some theaters, of course, like the Northern Italy campaign, the Egyptian campaign, and the Iberian campaign, which are all okay on their own. They lack some uniqueness to them, perhaps except for the Iberian campaign, which has sort of the whole thing about France now being the superpower, and they have to deal with guerrilla warfare kind of from the Spanish. But it makes the Europe campaign obviously the main thing here. And Napoleon is the polished, the Europe that we wanted in Empire. It looks better, it runs better, it has some added features like the whole liberating cities that you take over. It has attrition. It's the first game in the series that has attrition from like being out in the cold and stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, cold and exposure. Yeah, I think you're right.
Exactly. Much like Empire, it has naval battles. They are slightly improved as well in that you can actually repair ships in the battles too, and they look a little better. It has an amazing soundtrack, which is much better than Empire's, I would say. And the whole vibe of freaking being Napoleon is awesome. There's a lot of cool characters here.
Yeah.
It's just such a vibes game, It is a good game and it is a vibes game. It's such a vibes game. Yeah, it really is. It is. If it had more, it has some events, but they're mostly related to conquering certain cities, and what you get is basically like gold and stuff. If it had taken some of those, I guess when you, let's say, take Vienna, you make a peace deal with the Austrians, if I'm not mistaken. But it would have been nice if it actually had a lot more of that political intrigue, because there was a lot of that intrigue in the actual history,
A lot more of those unique interactions. It does have, it's been a minute actually since I've revisited Napoleon. I think the diplomacy system is pretty good. It's essentially empires, right? Did they change anything major with that?
It's the exact same thing, just maybe more polished. I don't know, but it's the exact same workings of it.
Yeah, I think Napoleon is probably in the running, even though it's a little dated. It's probably in the running for the most beautiful Total War game.
Yeah.
I think on the battle maps especially. I think the firing lines, the smokes, the cannons, the sound design. I mean, it's just incredible, the atmosphere of Napoleon battles. So that really elevates it, in my opinion, because it's hard not to feel like you're playing a very railroaded, narrow version of Empire with just improvements, right? Like it feels watered down, which is kind of strange considering it's a sequel, kind of. You said it's kind of like a standalone expansion more than anything. But it has improvements. But it's like it has improvements, but it's also a watered down experience. It has multi-province France though, so you're happy
yes,
exactly. Like I said, it's absolutely beautiful. I actually really enjoy some of the more narrative-driven campaigns at times. They're kind of not the main reason I play Total War, but playing through, the African campaign and stuff like that is very fun, where it's a little more railroady, a little more narratively driven. I think those can be fun, but I don't really revisit them, I kind of like to revisit the vast grand campaign map where I can kind of have the sandbox to play in. That's why I like Total War, so...
And of course, even in its limited scope, it lacks important things, at least, again, for the vibe, like North Africa and even Anatolia and the Holy Land, and Egypt in that main campaign, which is like just...
In the grand campaign,
Yeah, which is like unbelievable, honestly,
I never got that, ever.
No.
It never made sense.
It's just like insane. But it does belong, to my heart. For me, it's definitely an A tier. It is the better game than Empire in all ways but the scope. And I think putting it in B tier is doing it a disservice. So
yeah, it's kind of hard to see it in that tier.
Yes,
honestly,
exactly.
I'd bump it up in A, and I mean, I enjoy it more than Dynasties. I enjoy it more than Rome now, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know if I enjoy it more than Attila and Three Kingdoms and Warhammer 3. It's probably below those, but
yeah,
it feels bad to put it in B.
Yeah, exactly.
Even with all the issues we stated, I think it's just. Such an incredible... I mentioned, medieval is kind of like the quintessential Total War period. I think Napoleonic warfare, Napoleonic era is probably the second best.
Absolutely.
Line infantry, line warfare, cannons and artillery and the cavalry. It's just navies. It's such an incredible mix of pre-modern army, but still so much technology, so many advancements in tactics. Seeing that realized in the campaign is super fun, right?
And the flags, the vibes of the flags.
The flags. Don't forget the flags and the rockets.
Don't forget the flags. The rockets.
But, we didn't call out Empire. Probably has one of the cooler, and Napoleon, I think. I might need a reminder here. I really actually like how they did the technology, where you can either... Let me say this and you can correct me. I think you can either research it or you can steal it, right? With agents?
Yes.
Yeah, so the ability to steal technologies through your spies or whatever, I think is actually really cool.
That's very cool.
And the technologies in those ones actually had a huge impact.
Yes.
Warhammer, it's 5% increase to your farms. Okay, who gives a shit? Give me kneeling.
Exactly.
What's that called? Kneeling firing lines, and give me
fire by rank and whatever.
Fire by rank, and those completely change the dynamic of your army.
I know.
Those are technologies that completely change how you approach a battle, and they're just so much more interesting than the little variations on percentile increases.
I know. The first one that you can get is add the ring bayonet, and then after that you can have the permanent bayonet thing. I guess the ring bayonet is the second one.
Sure.
Right. But it's just they are so valuable and important, and if you don't have it really feels like a technology race, that you need to keep up with. And while you obviously need that in the later games as well, and I think in Rome you need let's say a certain research tier to get a new barracks, which will then allow you to get the latest units. It's not the same, and especially for those nodes that open up new farms and new sort of ways to do production here and there. It's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, a lot of them were also the percentile increases, especially the whatever you call them, like the civil update or civil technologies. But then, yeah, they had pretty pretty big game changing ones that I think were just super awesome, like Fire and Advance and Cannonades and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's obviously, that might be a little bit more important in Empire, but the system is the same in Napoleon. It's just not as it's not as important like in that way.
I'd agree with this. Napoleon, a little more limited in scope, but more satisfying to play than Empire to me.
Yeah.
So I'm good with it in A.
Nice. All right.
Okay.
Last 4.
Getting down there.
Getting down and dirty.
The wheel. What am I gonna get? Warhammer.
Oh yes.
Oh, barely eked past Rome 2.
Yeah.
All right, Warhammer 1. What do I say about Warhammer 1? It's definitely one of the more innovative titles.
It's been 9
love it or
years.
hate it. Yeah, that has it really been almost a decade since Warhammer 1. That's insane. Jeez. Probably one of the more innovative titles that they've done. I mean, for all intents and purposes, the gameplay loop has stayed relatively similar through all the historical titles. Obviously, there are vast improvements. Warhammer introduced things like flying units, magic, true heroes, like true hero units, single entity units, tons of stuff, like monster units. So it necessitated a ton of changes, right, to the engine, to how tactics were working, to unit models and collisions and HP. And, a lot of people argue that was to the detriment of the series. I could see those arguments. But it's hard to deny that Warhammer wasn't like a super innovative experience when it came out. Funny to look back at it now, it feels very like quaint. You look at the Immortal Empires versus like Warhammer 1 campaign. It's so like the difference in the scope and the factions and the effects were so vastly different, right? Warhammer, you go back to it now, it feels very limited, but at the time, like those things I mentioned, like flying units were mind-blowing. Like that didn't seem possible to pull off in a total war game, and I think they did it so well that it honestly spawned an entire new wing, a new arm, new franchise essentially out of the Total War series. So I guess I'm mostly arguing the impact of Warhammer is hard to argue against, but the gameplay, I actually liked it the least out of the 3. For me, it's probably a C tier. It's very limited. Like I said, it's kind of quaint now, but at the time, being able to play as orcs outside of a mod was pretty awesome. Like, right. And seeing all those faction effects. So the overall impact of the series can't be denied. A lot of people would say it's for the negative, and I might agree because we have kind of suffered as more historical fans, but I also have loved the Warhammer games. So
yeah.
I think the HP system and like kind of the nerfing of the province and campaign map were probably the biggest detriments to the series from my perspective, from Warhammer that have carried into other entries. So for me, it's kind of like a C tier. Probably right.
Yeah, I think that Warhammer, I do like Warhammer more than Warhammer 2, but after Immortal Empires, that is kind of Warhammer as well. When it came out, it's weird to think about Warhammer as not having been a thing, because once it was a thing, nothing has been the same.
Yeah, exactly.
In the franchise. So it definitely did a lot. It is one of the more innovating games in the series, while at the same time, it kind of feels very much like Rome 2. The campaign, at least, just like if you don't add the faction-specific mechanics, it is Rome 2. If Warhammer had been more of a sort of realistic, or if they had gone down more in the dirt and kind of remade the foundations a little, I think that would have been fun. But today, when you have Warhammer 3, you have Warhammer 2, I think it's very fair to put Warhammer at I don't know, C or even D, honestly. I mean, like, I'm not playing this game, it's you get like the better experience in the 2 later games. Yeah.
I think it did enough new and enough interesting things. I'd probably say it's a C. But to your point, I have not returned to it since Warhammer 2 came out. So
yeah.
But
no, I think C sounds fair.
as much as I've enjoyed Warhammer 2 and 3 and I enjoy those experiences, I kind of wish, in retrospect, that was a one-off Warhammer 1 little fantasy game. Awesome. Let's get back to the meat and potatoes of Total War.
Exactly.
Even though I do love the other fantasy games in their own way, right?
Yeah, would it be nice if this was like, oh, and then there was Warhammer. Yeah, that was a unique game, right? But
yeah,
happy that was it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right.
I think that's fair. C's good.
Yeah.
Okay. It's so funny how quaint it is now, especially the faction mechanics compared to what they are today, right? And the rosters.
Yeah, exactly. The final 3, my guy.
All right, your spin. We got 3 good ones here.
Oh my gosh. Fall of the Samurai.
The Last Samurai, the video game.
Yes. Okay. Fall of the Samurai, obviously an expansion, standalone expansion to Shogun 2. Shogun 2 Fall of the Samurai is probably the single coolest campaign, perhaps, in the franchise.
Yes, that's what I want to hear.
And it's because it's got everything. It's got the classical samurai. It's got freaking Armstrong guns and Maxims, and it's got those navies, and it's a blend of the old and the new, and it makes it so dynamic. Naval bombardments on the campaign map, which why hasn't that been replicated? It has fairly cool agents. It has a cool sort of allegiance system with the Empire, or the Emperor versus the Shogun. Yeah, it has fucking train on the maps, or like the opposite, trains on the map. It's so cool. It's so unique. The map also got they actually remade the map for this one, like the map in Shogun 2. That's actually weird. They remade the maps for every expansion here. In Shogun 2, it looks very sort of calligraphy thing almost. In Rise of the Samurai, it looks a bit more realistic maybe, but in Fall of the Samurai, it looks a lot more realistic.
It's like you've leached the art, you've leached the culture.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah, and now it's industry, and it's it does look perhaps a bit too gray at times, but it does look good. And as for the campaign, it's just such a unique experience that you can sort of, get that Last Samurai experience, like you said. This is the game,
Yeah. Oh, man. For me, Fall of the Samurai, I can see all the, the complaints. It is, I guess, a pseudo-saga title, right? Like, it's kind of a standalone saga title that came out before they had that program, or whatever you want to call it, that release model. Fall of the Samurai, to me, is... on a battle perspective and a moment-to-moment gameplay, the most fun Total War for me. I absolutely love the battles of Fall of the Samurai. Trying to play a campaign as a more, traditionalist, samurai-focused faction versus a fully, I wouldn't even necessarily fully Imperial, but just fully modern, just going full steam, literally, towards full modernization. And, getting those Armstrong guns, getting those naval bombardments, either way is so much fun, because dealing with kind of the constraints of a more traditional army and playing with those strengths, you have to use a lot of tactics, or you can just like literally blow shit up with naval bombardments, and it's incredibly satisfying. Actually, for me, Fall of the Samurai is an S tier. It is one of the most fun, just straight up enjoyable Total War experiences for me. But I also recognize it's a little more limited. The campaign isn't nearly as grand as other titles. I just absolutely love the vibes, the smoke effects, everything about it is fantastic.
Right. I do also think it's an S tier.
Ooh, so, I didn't expect that, actually.
Why not?
I don't know. I didn't know it was that highly rated for you, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it is, as you said, it is, in terms of scope, it is quite limited, even though it is in some ways just as big as Shogun 2, like in terms of the map,
Right.
But it is just so much fun, and I think it has decent or very good music as well. It has, maybe in modern times, definitely it has the best sort of battle loading soundtrack. That is just such a good one,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's a banger for sure.
Yeah, what could I add? I guess it would be fun to have seen a bit more, perhaps possible intervention from the Western powers, maybe. It could have been fun to see that, like, maybe happening. Like, if you're, like, let's say you're on very bad terms or something, that could have happened. Like, obviously that's maybe not historical, but would have been a fun little twist maybe to have.
Yeah, little ahistorical kind of scenarios where
maybe
they even they even launch invasion forces or something.
Exactly.
Because outside of you kind of align with one of them, and you get a few technology things. You get some troops. Other than that, they don't really care that you've stunned them. If you go like American and Portuguese don't come after you or anything like that. That could be really cool. Or they try to undermine you, right?
Yeah. Well,
so more of those
this time, the Portuguese aren't really. they don't really matter that much anymore.
That's a good point, actually.
But you got the Americans, you got the French,
British.
and the British, exactly.
Yeah, the British, sorry. One of those factions, right? Kind of trying to undermine you. I think there could have been some expansions, but honestly, I absolutely love the scope. I think it's really cool to see a Total War in such a later time period. I think this is the latest time period of the entire series, right?
Yes.
Kind of creeping right up into the early 20th century, pre-World War I, and you start getting those technologies, Gatling guns and stuff. It's just rolling in, sailing the seas in your ironclads ironclads, right?
Yeah.
Versus little wooden samurai boats. I mean, it's a vibe you can't capture anywhere else. It's so cool.
Yeah, and it's quite literally the Victorian period, right? It sounds weird, but it is.
Yeah.
It's just far away.
Right. I guess we didn't include all of the samurai, or not. Obviously, Rise of the Samurai on its own, but
because that's actually like a part of Shogun 2.
Yeah, much
in a
more
different
limited,
way.
So. I'm good with it in S. It's one of my favorite experiences.
Yes, same. Awesome game, S tier for sure. All right. Battle of the Twos.
Man, we can only have one more in S.
This looks like a Pokeball now.
All right. Which one are we getting? This is you, right? Yeah.
This is you now.
Oh,
right?
It's me?
Yeah, I think so. Pretty sure it's you.
Oh man, Shogun 2. This
2.
is where I'm really struggling. I'm honestly really struggling with which one goes in S, because I love both. Oh, we have Rome Remastered. That's not on the wheel. Okay, we'll save that.
Oh, that's
for
not
last.
on the wheel? Okay.
Yeah, we'll save that for last. Shogun 2 is definitely one of my favorite entries in the entire franchise. I think it's to this day still the most beautiful. It's hard to say. The vibes and aesthetics and art design and style of it are immaculate. It brought in so many cool features. I actually think, a lot of people say Shogun 2 is very, we keep saying limited in scope, right? It kind of is to an extent, because you are in just Japan. You have kind of limited faction effects that really, in the grand scheme of things, don't make a huge difference. Some factions, have unique units. But, a bonus to artillery or whatever is in the game, completely game-changing. I actually think the lack of unit variety in Shogun 2 really drove an increase in, your tactics and just knowing how to play different unit types against each other, as opposed to, later entries like Dynasties where, okay, those are heavy club units that will tear anything apart. It's like, outside of the completely broken, Yari Samurai, or Yari Ashigaru, which were stupidly broken, right? Every unit had very distinct strengths and weaknesses, and pitting them against each other, playing with the tactics of each was super, super entertaining. And so, yeah, you can complain there's a lack of unit variety. I think it really is to the strength of the gameplay, though, personally. Other than that, I think it's a gorgeous game. I mean, I love the subterfuge and the agents and ninjas were returning, obviously. I don't know. Everything about it's great, from the campaigns to the battles. It's a vibe too. I don't know where I'd put it. I'd probably put it in S, but we have Fall of the Samurai up there. So
yeah, I think Shogun 2 is a very good game. It's just a good game, It is very simple. It is samurai. And it is Japan. What it represented when it came out, I think, was a return, kind of a bit of a return to that classic Total War, and a sort of move away from the long range warfare of Empire and Napoleon. That being said, though, it never felt like a true return, despite the more prevalent family tree and stuff. And I just think it's because by this point, population was, for all intents and purposes, gone. I think actually this was the first game that removed population, actually.
Oh yeah,
so
actually never really thought about that.
Yeah, it retained the province system. At least it was quite similar to the one in Napoleon. You had these sort of cities, and then you had these outskirt resource locations, like ports or mines and things like that. And that was nice. But for some reason, Shogun 2 didn't feel as good as Medieval 2 did. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm alone in that, but it felt good. It had some amazing animations, but it just didn't feel as like tactile, I guess.
Yeah, I think, I could see that. I think what it did, though, it did very well in that it was probably the most polished one at release, right? As far as being a comprehensive experience that performed really well and looked great. It's kind of like the best balance of all those worlds. It's actually one, Shogun 2 is kind of the one I actually, like, I've had a few buddies ask me which one they should get into.
Yeah.
It's always either Rome 2 or Shogun 2. And the reason I bring up Shogun 2 is I feel like it has kind of a simplistic campaign in a way, compared to later titles with tons of features. And even Medieval 2 had some more in-depth campaign features.
Yes.
But in that way, it's kind of a strength. If you're new to the series, Shogun 2 kind of captures perfectly what Total War is, for me at least. It's just a great balance of battles, campaign, fun features, but it doesn't have like necessarily the vast depth that maybe other titles do.
I think it definitely deserves an A.
Oh man. Okay, fine.
What, in your opinion, makes it an S?
My personal love of it. It's one of my favorite entries in the whole series. Like, it's probably my second favorite entry in the series. So, yeah. If I'm considering Fall of the Samurai with it, it's easily my second favorite.
Oh yes, obviously it's that's why. That's why, in my opinion, we separated them.
I think the fact that our A is so stacked just speaks to the strength of the series, though. But
yeah,
it hurts. I'll leave it an A. I mean, that leaves us with two options for S, right? So
it does, but we also said that we could, think about it at the end.
Okay.
But
I think I said everything. My piece on. Other thing with Shogun 2 I wanted to mention, the multiplayer campaign, Avatar campaign was awesome.
Right.
I don't know why they got rid of that. That was so cool. Very fun.
It was. No, it's an amazing game. It's an amazing game. I just think that it lacks a certain something, in my opinion. Even though, as you said, it is a great introduction. It's a great product overall. It just lacks that spark that these two have so far. That little extra.
Fall of the Samurai has a similar. I don't think it's as punishing because you have the option to basically choose your path. But the Shogun 2, the biggest detriment to its diplomacy is the realm divide mechanic is just straight up bullshit.
Yes, the
that is
AI is quite bad, right, in Shogun 2.
Well, it doesn't, and regardless of their relationship with you, they will turn on you no matter what. It just feels bad, right?
Yeah.
So Realm Divide, definitely a big detriment. I think it has some of the most fun sieges, though. I love the multi-tiered castles and stuff like that.
True. Those are good. Are we good?
Good there. Yep. I said my piece.
Nice.
More than my piece.
More than my piece. And then
spin it. What are you gonna get?
Whoa. Okay.
Oh shit.
All right.
Oh
shit. Damn, it's a Rome 2.
It's a Rome. You want to do this or Rome Remastered? It's your choice, I guess.
Well, it landed on Rome 2, did it not?
All right. Well, okay.
Rome 2. It's the talk of.
This is a tricky one.
Talk of the town. Rome 2 is easily a detail.
On release?
On release, yes. On release, I spent more time browsing the Total War Community Center forums than I spent playing.
It's a good sign.
But these days, it's a good game, a very good game, a massive game. It's the quintessential Rome game in a lot of ways, and not just in the modern Total War scope, but also kind of in the strategy genre as a whole. There's few Rome games that are as vast and as all-encompassing as this one.
Yeah.
It looks amazing. I think it has a good campaign soundtrack, while the battle soundtrack might be a bit more lacking.
Especially compared to the original. Yeah.
Yes,
the original
absolutely.
is just a classic. You can't really beat it.
No, right. But now as well with the improvements that CA Sofia did, it has some cool alternate campaigns, and it also has the family tree, some politics. Definitely such an upgrade from the launch. That being said, though, because it lacks, it was the game that introduced the province system that, in my opinion, makes conquest not as fun. It makes the map feel less populated and more sort of just like jumping from section to section rather than feeling organic in expansion.
I can see that, yeah.
It's just the map, while beautiful, the map looks so uncharming in many ways. Why is there a 1,000 feet coastlines everywhere? Like the length of it. I mean, like every beach is like the cliffs of Dover. And
it's like an uncanny map where it's like it's looks somewhat real. It looks somewhat real, and then it's uncannily not realistic, right?
Right.
I get what you're saying.
And why are there 4 or 5 cities in the entirety of Greece, basically? Like if you're playing as the Antigonids, you're gonna have like, 1 or 2 provinces, I can't really recall, at this time. But that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel immersive. It feels like, why just one? And I've conquered this whole region in like a few, blah, blah, blah. It's just not it.
Yeah, I think Total War's always kind of had this issue, but Rome 2, it stands out. I think what you're saying, I get that as well, where it's more like it's not this like sprawling civilizations. It's more just like centralized locations where everyone is, right? And each one is a city. But doesn't feel like a kingdom. It's just like locations of civilization, not a sprawling kingdom, right?
Right.
That's the vibe I get, at least.
Yeah, I think a lot of that could have been fixed if it had the Empire sense of things, with sort of having these what are they called? These like smaller settlements,
Yeah, minor settlements, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Outside of the cities, that would have been nice to sort of fill in the map and everything. But yeah, there is something about Rome 2 because of the lack of population, because of the weird province design, because of the weird map at times, that doesn't feel as deep and complex as it should feel.
Yeah.
This is obviously something that like DEI fixes to an extent. They do introduce a much more complex campaign with population management and things like that, which is awesome. But even then, you have the issue of too few cities, and they're so like large on the map as well,
Yeah. In the Emperor Edition, is that what it's called, right? The Emperor Edition.
Yes.
I did appreciate all the like internal management they added with your family, and the political like structure and the different factions playing against each other. It wasn't like, it wasn't as deep as like a Paradox title, obviously, but it did add some good depth from my perspective.
Yeah.
Where you didn't want to necessarily like favor your family, but you did because you got so many bonuses.
Yeah.
But if you just made every general a family member, that could work for a bit, but would eventually like bite you in the ass, right?
Yes.
And I think stuff like that was pretty cool.
It was.
The fact that it had none of that on release is pretty shocking. I mean, it was like an absolute dumpster fire, right?
It had none of that, and it had a lot of trash.
Oh, so many bugs too. Jeez.
So many bugs.
Yeah, Rome 2, I feel like you're kind of hitting at what I always felt is it's a fantastic Total War experience. To me, it never really realized the potential of what a Rome 2 Total War should have been, right?
Mm-hmm.
Considering how influential and game-changing the first one was. But I think it's a fantastic Total War game.
Yes, for all intents and purposes, it is. Again, it depends also where you're like coming from, right? Like if you began with the series with Rome 2, it might just be your favorite, If you did have that expectation of like, oh yes, like let's get the series back to Rome, it wasn't that,
Right.
And I think that disappointed a lot of people, including myself. But overall, it's a massive game. You could spend as many hours in this game as in a Warhammer 3, for example. There are so many factions here. But I think overall, it's probably, you know, if we don't count DEI as being like a massive increase, like it obviously is, but I think it's a solid B.
Wow.
How about you?
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Although it is, it's interesting. I'd probably put it in B as well, even though it's one I return to the most frequently.
Yeah.
Or most consistently, I should say. And it's probably just because it is, you know, scope-wise, the largest historical title.
Yes.
I mean, you can go in, jump in, outside of even mods, right? You can jump in and play any different faction and have a very different experience. So yeah, it's massive. To your point, you can easily get hundreds and hundreds of hours outside of mods. You throw some mods in and it vastly improves it. So I think B is fair.
Yeah, good. And then it's the last little boy,
Roma Remastered.
Roma Remastered.
You've actually played this one more than me, but I've played it a little bit now, so that's good. I think it's kind of interesting. Rome Remastered is an upgrade, certainly. I think it's mostly visual upgrade. I do like some of the enhancements that they made to it. I can't help but feel a little disappointed with the scope of the changes. Considering kind of the legendary status of this game, it kind of needed a remake more than a remaster. Because it feels dated, even with some enhanced graphics. I'm, you know, playing the Oblivion remaster now, and it's fantastic. But there's this uncanny effect where you're playing something that looks good but plays old. And Rome Remastered is kind of like that for me, where it still feels old and outdated in many ways, but it looks great. Obviously not like as incredible as maybe full-blown titles, but it looks fantastic. Yeah. And that's just kind of uncanny at times, where the visuals don't match some of the dated gameplay. Things like pathfinding, the AI weren't really fixed, in my opinion. And so, in many ways, it was kind of a disappointment. I would have appreciated more of an effort, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. You've played it more than I have, so.
Yeah, I think that, you know, Rome, as to your point as well with Shogun, like 1, the original Rome plays pretty badly on modern PCs. It still looks good, but it's definitely not optimized for it. So if you're gonna, you know, play Rome today, let it be Rome Remastered in a way.
Right, yeah.
And whether it looks more charming or not is up to each one of us to figure out in our hearts. But in terms of the visuals, you know, like sort of directly, obviously it looks better now. But it could have needed that extra oomph of animation redesign, because when you're playing the battles and they, despite everything, look really good, it's jarring to see that they're kind of just like hacking at each other, morphing into various positions, you know? It doesn't feel as cool as it ought to. And that's also why, even though Medieval 2 doesn't have a remaster and it's much older than the remaster, of course, of Rome, it still feels better because of the animations. They feel so organic.
Yeah.
Especially in terms
and
of the
visual, as like the visual upgrades of the units, things like that are
yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Pathfinding issues in Rome, even in the remaster, are much worse than those in Medieval 2. In other words, they, in a large way, remain from the original Rome, which is a bad thing. Probably, maybe impossible to actually change. I know a lot of things are actually hard-coded in the engine, and it's tough for them to change this without destroying everything, essentially.
Yeah.
Can only go
it's a house of cards.
So far.
Their engine's a house of cards. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's an amazing game. And with Barbarian Invasion, that's a really fun campaign as well. You get so much out of this. With mods, you know, there are some incredible mods here. Some of the most ambitious mods of all time, like Imperium Surrectum. You can argue if it's too ambitious, but at least, you know, like, it's a map of, I don't know, around 2,000 provinces, or maybe less now. I think they tried going a little back on it because it became a lot, but that's just so cool. Thing is, Rome sadly isn't optimized for that on an engine level. So like when you have like the UI for the city names on, it will lag. Which is just such a bizarre thing. But anyway, this is kind of neither here nor there. I think Rome Remastered is really good. I think it's, with everything considered,
I don't know where I'd put it.
With everything considered, I really find it at an A tier, honestly.
Okay.
It's
I think it's a fun trip down memory lane. And to your point, it's kind of the definitive and really only way to play Rome now and enjoy it on modern architecture, modern hardware. But it'd be hard for me to recommend to anyone like, hey, what Total War should I get? Never played one. I probably wouldn't do Rome Remastered because it does feel dated.
Yes. Luckily, they did improve the controls in the battle, which is a big change that they made, you know? So at least it like plays like the modern games.
Yeah, that's true.
Has like a WASD movement and stuff, blah, blah, blah.
I think the UI is worse than the original. That's my take, though.
Yeah, explain.
Visually, I just don't think it looks as good. Like they tried to make it look like marble or something, and it looks more like a tablet design. It looks like Rome mobile than like a reimagining of the original UI, which I thought was really cool. A parchment type of UI, right?
The original actually looked like marble, I think.
Maybe I'm mixing.
I think both of them actually try looking like marble, but absolutely the first one had like the whole marble layout,
right?
As you said. But yeah, the UI is obviously a big controversial thing about this game. I do not love the UI either in terms of look, but in terms of functionality, it works quite well, I would say. When all is said and done, I do really love Rome, whether it's a B or an A. Quite difficult.
I mean, we have the original in A, so...
We do have the original, but as we said today, I'm not gonna recommend anyone playing the original Rome, honestly.
Yeah, so maybe that goes even down to
performance,
B, which feels horrible. Jeez.
It feels
but I
horrible.
mean, we're kind of like, you know, is it talking today or when it released, right?
You're right.
We already said S tier. All right,
yes.
so we still have an open S actually.
We do have
if it were up to me, sorry, you can go ahead if you want.
No. Let's.
I think I'm pretty happy with our list here. I think it's pretty solid. You know, there may ruffle some feathers out there, but everyone has a different opinion. This is, of course, our opinions. If you disagree, you're wrong, but that's fine. Based on your arguments, based on what I'm looking at here, I would move either... The problem is Shogun 2 is so fantastic, but we have Fall of the Samurai, so I'm good. We can't have two Shogun 2s. Okay. I would probably move either, actually, Three Kingdoms.
Oh my god!
Or you can sway me on Attila. I agree with Attila. What probably puts Attila in S tier is the Medieval Kingdoms 1212 mod, though. The base game, I would leave in A, if not a B, but the mods elevate Attila vastly, right?
Remember also that they're making the Lord of the Rings mod. It'll be not too long until it's out, I think. Maybe like this year or next or the next after that.
Yeah, if I'm looking at our A's, those are really the top two I would probably push up if we need one more S, right?
Yeah.
I would defer to Attila. We can push that up because you wanted it as an S. Unless you think differently now.
I very much agree with that. I think that Attila is so unique. I think it's such a move up from Rome 2, and I think despite its issues, people have really flocked to it and made Attila something more than just Attila. Whereas mods for Shogun 2 or Warhammer 3 or whatever can be really amazing as well. Attila has that medieval 2 feel of it, where you have these total conversion mods, you know?
Right.
And that's so much fun.
Completely changed the experience. I'm good with that. I think if we are looking at it more objectively, maybe you feel different. On an objective level, I'd say Three Kingdoms or even Warhammer 3 are better games than Attila.
Okay.
But when it comes down to preferences, I'd probably put Attila above them. I say that after saying I like Three Kingdoms more, but I will concede to you. This is your show here, so. Three Kingdoms I think is excellent. I think it just comes down to preference.
Yeah.
And where you don't vibe with Three Kingdoms as much, I think it is I keep talking about it, so obviously. I think it is an incredibly well done game. Attila has performance issues, but mods definitely elevate it very highly. Very high for me, so I'm happy with this.
Awesome. I think this is an awesome list. It looks great. It's fun that the middle rows here each have one version of Rome.
yeah, they just spread across.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Medieval 2, Shogun, Twofold the Samurai, and Attila, those are, in my opinion, even though it's sad to put none of the Romes in S, it is sad. It's a question of time, honestly. Or like, you know, like time period when they were made, because they haven't aged that well. Right. These are unique experiences that each offer something very different, but also something very specific, you know, in that Medieval 2 has that medieval feel. It has so much within that package, including so many mods. Fall of the Samurai, honestly, I don't know if I've ever played it with mods. So the fact that it's in S tier,
I haven't either,
just
actually.
by its vanilla, it's insane, you know.
Yeah.
And it is as you mentioned, the latest game in terms of time period, and the dynamism of everything makes it so unique and special. And Attila, which has that gray, dark, apocalyptic campaign, which on its own is like nothing else, but it's so asymmetrical and unique in that too, and add on the mods and you have almost a modern Medieval 2, which in some ways is much deeper than even Medieval 2.
Yeah, in some ways.
And there's the future as well, you know.
Great list. I'm sure we'll get no hate for this.
No hate.
I still think Pharaoh and D is a little brutal, but I'm good with this as it stands. So I appreciate you, Andy, letting me jump on and talking through an incredible franchise. I think we have a good list here.
I appreciate you, and thank you so much for coming. And now it's up to you guys to let us know which games you would have put in S to D tier. And of course, we have RogueRanks with us here, so make sure to give him a sub as well. He has awesome content. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.